Well, hi everybody. As I record this video devotional today, I'm thinking a little bit about my next couple sermons that I'm going to be preaching. And the next couple sermons I'm going to be preaching are on two of the core values or pillars of Methodism. And these are the values of grace and holiness. So these two values of grace and holiness help us to remember what Methodism is all about. And as I was thinking about Methodism and grace and holiness, I was also reflecting on our logo for just a little bit. So you might remember that the United Methodist Church does have a logo. You might even be able to tell us what that logo is. But in case you forgot, I will remind you that our logo as Methodists is the cross and the flame. So if you come in here into the church and you pick up a hymnal, you'll see right smack dab on the front cover in the very center is the cross and the flame. And then if you come in here and you pick up a Bible, you also see on the cover we have a cross and a flame. And these two are just slightly different, but it's the same basic logo. So why do we as Methodists use the cross and the flame as our logo? Well, there's a few things that I want to say about this. Obviously, the logo is really pretty straightforward, right? I mean, there's two basic elements. There's the cross and the flame. And the reason that we have the cross on there, which again you can see right there, is that we follow Jesus. The Jesus who died on the cross for us and then rose again. So it's Jesus we follow. We walk in his footsteps. He's our North Star. He's our sure foundation. And so that's why on every hymnal, every Bible we have the cross. But we obviously don't just have the cross, we also have the flame. And that's because traditionally fire has symbolized the Holy Spirit. And so we have a flame for the fire of the Holy Spirit. So that reminds us that we as a church are collectively led by the Holy Spirit. It's always the Holy Spirit which is guiding us. And you'll notice on here that these are not two separate elements placed side by side, but rather they're together. So there's the flame and then the cross is placed on top of it. And that's because you can never separate Jesus and the Holy Spirit. As we seek to follow Jesus and walk in his footsteps, it's always the Holy Spirit which leads us and guides us on that journey. And so that's why we have both of them put together, because they can never be separated. Now there's a couple other things I want to say in regard to the symbolism of this. So you'll see as we have the cross and the flame on here, the flame actually has two flames on it. It's not just one flame, but two. And that's because it reminds us of the day of Pentecost, the day in which the church was born. So you'll remember that after Jesus died on the cross and was resurrected, a short time later, there was the day of Pentecost where all the people were gathered together in Jerusalem. And it says that there were like tongues of fire that came down. And that was the Holy Spirit falling on the people. And so these two flames invoke the image of those tongues of fire coming down on the people as the church was birthed that day. But these flames are not just about the Holy Spirit or the day of Pentecost. They also remind us of our founder, John Wesley. You might remember John Wesley had this crazy conversion experience where he was at this church on a street in London called Aldersgate, and he heard this sermon that was being preached about the book of Romans. And as he heard that, he said that he felt his heart being strangely warmed by the Holy Spirit. And so we remember his conversion, his heart being strangely warmed that day by the Holy Spirit. And so that's another reason why we have the flame on here, to remember that experience of our founder as well. But then lastly, it reminds us of the two denominations that came together to form the United Methodist Church. So you'll remember that there were two existing denominations the Evangelical United Brethren Church, or EUB, and the Methodist Church. And they came together and merged in 1968 to follow Jesus together. And so that's another reason why we have these two flames on here, because they represent the two denominations that came together in 1968. And so that's a little bit about our logo. And it's something we don't think a whole lot about, but I think it's good every once in a while to go back and to look at our logo and to remind us what it means and who we are as Methodists. So I hope that blessed you, and we'll talk to you soon.